All right, so welcome everybody to the Power of Perspective, a webinar that we are holding today. I want to introduce our speaker, Sam Morgan. I've gotten to know him very well over the years through workshops and just various webinars and classes that we've attended together and other little circles that we hang out in. So Sam discovered Lean through a company-wide deployment at the Standard where he works right now. Since then, he has really dove headfirst in with passion and total curiosity, engaging in continuous improvement in his office, his community, and online. He started a regular video feature called CI in 5. Those are really cool. Tap into those through YouTube. I will send some links. And he's very active in LinkedIn and the Kata communities. I will share his LinkedIn profile with you right now, if you want to connect there. Okay. And last year, Sam led a webinar for us called Finding Your Purpose, and that was a lot of fun. And he was eager and willing to share with the HPEC community again after being a keynote at KataCon just about a little over a month ago. I heard fabulous things about his presentation. I'm like, we've got to hear from you here. And he's like, I'm more than willing to share with this community. So what we're going to see is a new and improved and revised version of his KataCon keynote with a little bit more interaction flavored in, because that's what we like to do around here. So without any further ado, I am going to hand you over to Sam, and please continue to engage throughout the presentation, and Sam will call out when we're ready for Q&A. All right, so, Sam, over to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, thanks, community, for having me. You know, it's a real privilege to be here. I always enjoy engaging with the Northwest HPEC community. You know, I think it was a few years ago, I actually did a problem solving event out at Warren while I was trying to grow my problem solving skills. And so ever since then, I've just really enjoyed being at different workshops and events with Northwest HPEC. And so it's a real honor to be able to get the opportunity to chat with you all again about a topic that's really, really important to me. It's near and dear to my heart, and I think has a real place for us as leaders, coaches, and continuous improvement practitioners to be able to understand the importance, the power of perspective. So one thing I do want to call out is, if you don't already, grab just a piece of paper, so that as we kind of go through this process, there's going to be moments to reflect and jot down some notes and thoughts about what we're going to be talking about today. So growing up as a son of a kids librarian of 30 years, stories were always a part of my life. So as I became a father, I carried on that tradition of telling stories every night to my 3 kids. And the powerful thing about stories is it wasn't just an opportunity to connect with them on a personal level. It was also a really great place for us to teach them valuable lessons about how to show up in the world. One of my favorite books to read to the kids was Priscilla and the Pink Planet by Nathaniel Hobie and his wife. Now, in this story, Priscilla lives in a planet, as you may have guessed it, that's just pink. That's the only color that's in the world. And frankly, Priscilla, she's a precocious kid. She's tired of it. And she really believes that there is more color, more vibrancy out in the world than she's experienced. And so she sets off on a journey to go and find all the color that she can in the world. Now, today, as I share with you, I'm going to talk about Priscilla's journey to find that color, and also my first year as a learner and coach in the Improvement Kata. And we're going to talk about the power of embracing different perspectives. And before we finish, I'm going to ask you to reflect and think about what people might call a challenge statement in the Improvement Kata world. Some might call it in the continuous improvement space a problem statement. But around this idea of the power of perspective and what you're going to learn through this process as we have this conversation today. So now, in my first year as a Kata coach and learner, what I took away was being exposed to all these different perspectives. I think it's really easy to get kind of stuck in your group that you're in, the people that you hang out with. They might have just similar views on the world or similar views on continuous improvement or leadership. And it's really easy to get stuck in that. And in my experience over that year, what kind of surfaced for me was like, wow, there's so many other different ways to look at the world and continuous improvement. And so what that really did for me was like, oh yeah, I need to step out of my own world. And when I did, I was able to see more. I saw more beauty and detail in the world when I opened myself to that like opportunity to see, yeah, there is so much more out there for me to see. And as I did that, it was like, wow, there's so much more in all these different groups and ways of thinking, identities. And that made me so inspired. It's like, yeah, there is so much more out there that is possible. It's not just the things that I can see in my own little world. It's all these different cultures and perspectives that I don't live in. So when I was exposing myself to those, it was like, yeah, there's so much more that's possible. And so through that energy and inspiration, it helped me overcome my own doubts about what I could do and be able to help people and coach people through the toughest challenges and overcome some really daunting obstacles. And as that belief again it surfaced, it pushed me to do more, to not just be stuck on the sidelines and thinking, man, I got to sit here and watch, but as a coach, really develop my practice to the point where I'm looking at moving forward on and doing more formal coaching here very soon. So again, this idea of having different perspectives help you see more, believe more, and then do more. So what I want to do is before we really jump into the meat of our conversation today, I want us to set an intention. Now, so take out your paper and your pen, and as you're thinking about this idea of the power of perspective and what you came here to kind of think on and reflect on, and then based on what kind of I shared there, what's your intention? What are you hoping to kind of clarify as we talk today? Because with intention, your actions become sharper and more focused because you set that intention. See, when we come to the end of our conversation today, I'm going to ask you to set up a statement that would say, wouldn't it be great if, around this idea of perspective. And so when you have an intention and we go through this conversation, that'll help you be really clear and focused as you do that. So I want you to just go ahead and take a moment to go ahead and write that down so that you can have it. Again, there's power in being able to write it so you have that visual in front of you. And if you're comfortable with sharing in the chat and feel comfortable doing that, but definitely there's power in being able to do that, like sharing it with the rest of the folks here. There's power in that. So if you have a moment, just take a couple more seconds here. And if you feel comfortable and share it, great. But yeah, what's your intention for our time here today? All right. So in the movie Mr. Holland's Opus, the band teacher, Mr. Holland, he composes a song for his deaf son. Now, in performing the song, he added sign language to the performance. And in one powerful moment, he signed, "My beautiful, beautiful, beautiful boy." And for me, beautiful is the perfect word to describe my son, Judah David Morgan. Now, Judah is fun-loving, smart, and sweet. And if you ever want to duel on soccer statistics, you're not going to want to mess with this guy because he will kill you in it. But this beautiful boy, 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with high-functioning autism. And I love what one sweater that I have says, it's just seeing the world, autism, in a different way. It's not good or bad. It's not neurotypical or neurodivergent, just different. And can I tell you, I have learned so much from Judah from just a different way he sees the world, because he sees so much differently. So that expands my world. I see so much more. And that's the power of perspective. That by in your coaching practice and your practice of continuous improvements or in your leadership practice, by opening up your world to people who see different things in a different way, you can see so much more. You open up the world. See, Judah sees the world in a different way. An example of that recently was as we went to get his 11-year-old checkup. Now, a part of the 11-year-old checkup is a bevy of shots. Now, shots aren't fun for anyone, let alone a young man with high sensory issues like Judah. So as my wife Sydney and I took him to his appointment, we prepared him ahead of time. We used some of his calming tools to help him get grounded, and also some positive self-talk. In fact, he even was so cool. He created his own calming tool. So when the nurse was giving him a shot, he would turn, if the shot was right here, he would turn to me right through his mask, and I have my mask on, and he gave me a little kiss to distract himself during that moment. It was beautiful. So the guy, like I said, he's tough to resist. Now, after the second shot, so one on each arm, we told Judah, okay, Judah, there's one more shot to come. And you could just see the wheels were kind of turning in his brain. And he thought for a moment and said, I don't have three arms. And that's what I love about Judah. You know, he just has a different way of seeing the world. He sees it in such a unique way. And that it helps me see that there is more out there than I ever could have thought, to open up my mind to see things from a different perspective. Now, in my first year as a kata coach and learner, I worked with some amazing people that helped drive home this idea of the power of having different perspectives in your practice. Now, Julie Simmons, she was my first coach in the improvement kata, and what she taught me every day was the power of being very direct and also at the same time really caring for me as a person. So as we were walking along, moving through the different steps of the improvement kata, she would be very clear about the expectation and be like, no, Sam, we're going to get it down here so you can learn the pattern. That's my job as your coach. At the same time, she had a daily practice before we even got into the coaching session of just checking in with me about how my day was going. How's the family? How's your new dog, Fritz? How are the kids? And that's a practice that I've got going for me now. Every time I coach someone, I'm always checking in with them and seeing how things are going with them on a personal level. Now, Raphael Elliott, if you never met this guy, you really should. He's one of the most thoughtful, intentional, and caring continuous improvement practitioners you're ever going to meet. And I had the privilege of being able to coach Raphael. And just like any other first-time learner or new learner in a new practice, especially the improvement kata, he had a challenge with being specific about where he wanted to go and the steps he wanted to take. And from what I learned from this as a coach was the importance of directing people to being specific. So that helped develop a skill in me that I still feel like even today is a real strong suit for me. So again, having these diverse perspectives and these diverse experiences, it helped me be able to really see so much more. And I love what Kenneth Gibbs has to say. He's commenting on the book, The Diversity Bonus by Scott Page. And in this book, Page talks about the difference between cognitive diversity and identity diversity. And he points out that many times seeing challenges differently, from having multiple perspectives, that is the key to having a breakthrough. Now, many times, and we've probably all seen this, maybe even been guilty of it ourselves, that we always are trying to get the SME, the smart person in the room to solve the problem, to put out the fire. But really, what we really need to do is get diverse perspectives in the room. And that is what is going to help us move through to that breakthrough and overcome that challenge. I love the Indian folk tale, Six Blind Men and the Elephant. And in this story, there's six blind men who are all feeling the elephant from a different perspective and a different point of view. The first blind man, he reached out and touched the elephant, and he felt something that felt like a smooth and solid like a wall. And then the second man, he's describing the elephant like a giant snake, of course, the trunk. And the third blind man, he felt something that felt sharp and deadly as a spear. And then the other three men continue to describe the elephant as they were experiencing. And in the end of this story, the narrator says that each man, they only had one part that they touched, but if they put all those parts together, you get the full picture. You'd see the truth. And that's, again, the power of perspective. When we have all those perspectives and we're inviting them into our space, into our practice as leaders, as coaches, as continuous improvement practitioners, then we can see the whole truth. And that's what we want to do as people in those positions. And moving along in our story with Priscilla, she was becoming, kind of hopeless that she would find any other colors in the world, until finally she met a butterfly that was full of colors. And at the same time, she ran into the Queen of Pink. Now, as you might guess, the Queen of Pink was none too happy that more colors were being tossed into her world. She was very opposed to this idea. That wasn't until Priscilla had offered this. If all of the colors were out for the wide world to see, pink would look even pinker. Don't you agree? And indeed, the queen did. And in that moment, she swung the net, the butterfly went free, and all the colors just came popping out. And that's what happens when we open ourselves to different perspectives and the possibility that it could add something to our world. we'll be like, wow, oh my gosh, there's all of these colors, all of these things are available to me in my world. When we step outside of our group that we are hanging out in, or have our spend the most of our time in, all those colors will start popping out. We'll start seeing those, and we'll see how amazingly beautiful the world is. I love this quote from Vinay Rastogi, talking about how when we have all those different perspectives, we can achieve the impossible more than we ever thought or imagined was possible when we have those different perspectives in our world, in our practice, and we're inviting those in. So I want to pause and take a moment to take some reflection here. You know, again, we talk about this idea that we're comfortable with the group that we're used to hanging out with, people that look like us and think like us, talk like us, and see the world like us. My wife, who is an expert in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion, and restorative justice, she talks about this idea of homogeneity and how we just like to hang out with those same people, the people that you agree with. But how can you move forward? And what lens do you need to have to be able to see all the colors? Like we talked about with Priscilla. What lens do you need to have to be able to see all of the colors? So I want to just take a moment here, take out your piece of paper. Again, this is just an opportunity to reflect. And when you write it down, that really helps deepen the learning. So just take a moment. What do you need to do? What lens do you need to have to be able to see all the colors? What kind of adjustment do you need to make to be able to see all those colors? Just give you a moment to think about that. Maybe something to think about here is this idea of a monochrome world versus a technicolor world. How can we change our view to be able to see all the colors? And if you'd be open to sharing in the chat, would love to see what you're reflecting on. Oh yeah, very good. Yes, Craig. Clean lenses. Yes, we need to clean those lenses up. That's great. Love it. Yeah, beautiful. So now Judah, he loves trains. He loves building all sorts of different train tracks. In fact, for Christmas this year, we had a table built, like custom built, so he could build his set. And we even had pegboards put in on the wall, organized by track type. So for those of you who are into visual management, this would be your sweet spot. Now, recently, Judah was building a set, and he had seen a video online. He loves watching the train track videos, and he was getting frustrated because it wasn't working like the way he saw it on the video. He was like, well, it should be working. So he was really getting in his field. And I said, all right, buddy, can we just try and experiment real quick here and maybe see if we can get it to fit and work this way? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, all right. So next day, he kind of had the same issue, and we worked a little bit more. And then the next day, worked a little bit more, and you can see it's kind of loosening up a little bit. And I'll forget this moment a week later or so. And he came running into my office middle of the day, and he was like, Dad, come check out this cool experiment I did. I got this track working this way. And can I tell you, that warmed my heart, of course, as a kata geek and a continuous improvement practitioner, but as a dad too, to see him moving his mindset, to believe that more was possible, that he didn't just have to be stuck. And there's a phrase that Judah often uses. It's one of his phrases of positive self-talk. And something I want us all to grab here is I can try. I can is what I want us to focus on as we think about believing more. I can. Now, how I saw this work out in my kata practice this last year was first with Brian Hurley. Now, if y'all aren't connected with Brian, you should be. He's a longtime continuous improvement practitioner, and he specializes in using Lean Six Sigma for good. In fact, he wrote a whole book about it. So he's helped save companies thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours of work. And also, he was open to having me coach him in the improvement kata. So by working with someone who had this experience and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, this guy should be able to do this in his sleep. But he was like, no, I want to learn how to do this new practice and achieve this challenge. And so I was like, all right. And so through that process, that helped me grow in my own confidence, because hey, if this guy over here is willing to trust me and believes that I can do it, then I need to be able to go, yeah, I can do this too. Now, my first learner as a coach in the improvement kata was John Christensen. Now, John was a project manager. He has a long history in that. And so as any project manager, he's bent towards action steps. Let's get like a list of action steps and knock those off one at a time or as quick as we can. And so in coaching him, I had to help him follow the pattern of the improvement kata. And with the help of Julie Simmons, who I mentioned earlier, as my second coach, I grew in being able to be more direct about, hey, this is the way the pattern goes, and we need to work one step at a time through that process. And so that helped me push to be more definitive and confident. And Julie, she's really fond of saying the kata helps grow your skills and capabilities. And I add, as you do so, you increase in confidence in your belief in yourself. Now, none of that would have happened if I didn't or wasn't open to the power of having these different experiences or these different perspectives that I could learn from. Now, in her article, How Diversity Makes Us Smarter, Catherine Phillips, she talks about how just having openness to and being willing to have diversity in your practice can change the way that you think. So let's just pause for a moment and just take that in. As leaders, as coaches, as continuous improvement practitioners, I mean, that is what I want. That is like the sweet spot. I want more of that. If I am in a space where I've got people that are willing to change the way they think and aren't just, you know what, the way I'm doing things is working just fine for me. It's always worked. Actually, I've tried that before and somebody shut me down. I don't want to go down that road again. Those are the things I know we all hear from folks who are resistant to change. But if we have those different perspectives, that helps people be open to change the way that they think. And why wouldn't we want to do that for ourselves and for those that we work with, lead, and coach? The value of diversity in learning and in thinking, Juliet Bork, she talks about this in her book, Which Two Heads Are Better Than One? And there's been studies that have been done that show there is an increase in innovation and a decrease in risk. Because you have all these different perspectives in the room, they're thinking of more ideas and they're seeing more of the things to be aware of, the risk that's involved. So there's, again, this idea of diversity impacting thinking and learning is so huge. Now, this next slide, this is probably my favorite aha moment that I had as I was reflecting and thinking and putting this together, is when you take this idea of having these diverse perspectives and you have an environment of inclusivity, what can happen? It is absolutely ridiculously amazing to me. So in a study done by Deloitte Australia, they did a study of when folks are feeling included. They have this environment of inclusion that's established by the leaders and coaches in their world. There is an increase in respect, feeling valued. And the thing I want us to get on here is this idea of inspiration. When people feel like they're accepted, when their perspective is accepted, they're feeling inspired. And that inspiration leads to an increase in performance and their ability to think more deeply and to collaborate more. Now, again, if we pause and think about that as leaders, that's what we're begging for. That's what we're like hungry for. We're wanting to see that inspiration and that increase in engagement. And so why wouldn't we want to have that in our practice? Why wouldn't we want to be intentional about creating that kind of environment? And I promise you, as you do that, you, like Priscilla, will believe more is possible too. Because you see, as Priscilla walked into this changed world, she saw all the colors. She was so energized. She's like, oh my God, all these colors? Wow. It's like moving from the black and white screen to seeing again in this technicolor world. The world just seems so new to her. Now, as leaders and coaches, as we invite more diverse perspectives into our practice and we become open to them, the benefit is more than just that, though. More than just like, oh, this beautiful world and this believing more is possible. Catherine Phillips goes on to kind of share the next steps. See, when we have all these perspectives in our world, the differences of perspectives that might exist, that helps us believe that actually we can do more. It helps inspire people to change their behavior. Mind blown, right? So again, I want to take a moment here to just pause And we're kind of at a turning point here because when we see more, when we allow ourselves, or we say, yeah, I want to be open to these different perspectives, and then when we do, we're like, wow, there's so much more out there, more is possible. Then we have to pause and go, okay, yeah, because again, we as practitioners, as leaders and coaches, we face that resistance to change or to doing something different. Things are working well for me. I've always kind of done it this way and it's worked fine for me. Why should I change it? So that's the question. I want us to think about this now in our practice of embracing different perspectives. And again, I want to take a moment and really think about this, reflect on it, and then write it down. Again, you can share if you feel comfortable or just for yourself. But again, there's power in being able to write it down and really seeing it on paper. What could you be missing out on by not having diverse perspectives in your practice? What could you be missing out on? And again, if you feel comfortable sharing, we'll be happy and love to have you share that. But let's reflect on that. What's the thing that you're missing out on? Robin DiAngelo, she's an author and speaker around issues of diversity. She talks a lot about how, especially people look like myself, and white folks, we don't miss having people of color in our experience. That's the experience of a lot of folks that are white. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I don't really missing out. But what are you missing out? If you don't have different perspectives, whatever they may be in your world, what are you missing out on? Missing out on opportunities to see the change. Yeah. Miss out on so much. Yeah. Just because something has been done a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way, or there aren't newer, better ideas. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So now I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm a pretty proud dad. And as a side note, can I say, one of the reasons why I'm proud is because my kids are super resilient, all three of them, not just Judah. Now, Judah, having high functioning autism, he gets easily stuck. So for another boy, what might be a molehill is actually a mountain to him. Now, through therapy, Judah has learned some really cool tools, like positive self-talk. And recently, Judah took up the trumpet, and he is absolutely loving it. And can I say, from an unbiased point of view, he's killing it. I mean, Miles Davis, maybe. See, he practices for 20 minutes every day. And for you kata practitioners, 20 minutes every day. Yeah. And before school, he makes sure we put on his trumpet music. We have a Spotify playlist that he loves, and his favorite song, That Old Devil Called Love, he has to hear it every single morning. And I remember one morning when he was wanting to start practicing, he was getting really frustrated. He was trying to put his mouthpiece on, and of course, you can't play the trumpet if you don't have the mouthpiece on it. You could just see the frustration building for him. He kept trying. And you could see the process going until he finally paused and he said, now for one of his positive self-talk mantras, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And sure enough, after that, he set a timer or two to himself. He was able to get mouthpiece on the trumpet and move forward and do his practice for the day. And as coaches, as leaders, as we open up ourselves to more perspectives and we see more, we believe more, and then we get to this point of like, oh yeah, I've seen all this. There's so much more is possible. I can do these hard things. Now, two people I learned the idea of doing more from this last year were Maria Grzenko, who's on the call today. Hi, Maria. And you, Allie. Now, as Maria coached me through a challenge, there was a moment where I was feeling really, really frustrated. I'm sure she'll just laugh at this because I was stuck. I was like, man, I don't know that I can go on anymore. And it wasn't like, looking back on it, wasn't anything like, oh my God, overwhelming. But in my mind, I was just spinning on it. I don't know if any of you have this disease, but paralysis by analysis. Anyone? It's a challenge for me. And so what I really appreciate about Maria is she said, Sam, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Now, don't you just hate it when somebody uses your own words against you? But what that helped me do is like, yeah, she said, let's just do something. And so I was able to kind of break out of that stuck place and move out and do something, and then eventually move forward and achieve my challenge. Now with Hugh Alley, he was my second coach on when I was coaching a learner in the improvement kata. And I remember I was getting really stuck on taking too much time during my coaching session. And he asked me after one of the coaching sessions, he said, so what's going on for you here? I wonder, how it is we can see what's going on for you and what's happening. And sure enough, I'd been stuck. I was like, oh man, I'm never going to break out of this. I'm not ever going to get over this idea of just spending too much time. And that helped me move past that and actually do something. Hey, let's do this idea. And so again, when we have all these different perspectives, it's teaching us new skills and new ways of looking at the world, and being open to these different ways of looking at coaching helped me to be able to do more. I really appreciate this African proverb. I think it sums up a lot of what we're talking about today. Because I think especially in our American culture, we're very individualistic. And, we always want to go fast. If you want to go fast, sure, you can go ahead and do that. You can do that, but you go alone. But if you want to go far, we have to go together. So if it's about learning, it's about growing and going farther, we have to do that together. Now, there have been studies done that have shown that bicultural individuals, so these are individuals that have parents that are from two different cultures, that they have a greater ability to be able to see from different perspectives. And then individuals who have a cross-cultural experience, that means like spending time doing business or study abroad in a different culture, they're able to have greater creativity. They can spur more ideas, and those same individuals also have activity as entrepreneurs that's increased. So they see more and they believe more, and then they do more. And I really appreciate this quote from a recent study that was done about how diversity works for us. It helps spur our complex thinking because it helps us deal with those moving targets. Now, as a continuous improvement practitioner, we set challenges up. We have problem statements, things that we're trying to solve. We know the destination that we're trying to get to, but we don't know the path that it's going to take us to get there. And so by having different perspectives in our world, in our room, in our sphere of influence, then we're able to move through the unknown. And being open to other perspectives, we can be like Priscilla, and we can love all the colors and all of their hues. But we have to first make that choice to be open to those different perspectives, and that is something that we need in our life. We have to see that as a need for us in our world. All the colors and all the hues. So today we've talked about how we can see more. How when we open up our mind and say, yeah, actually, there is so much more out there in the world, and I need to see that. I don't see it right now. Honestly, I'm kind of stuck in my own world. And I know there's more out there, and I need to see more. And I know when I see more, all those colors, all the beauty, oh my gosh, my eyes are open, and I can believe more is possible. I can believe that what I thought was not possible because I was in this world of just this homogeneous world where I could only see this limited view. Now my view of what's possible is open. And as that belief grows, it's like, yeah, I can do these things that I never thought was possible. I may not know the way to get there, but I know if I have all of these different perspectives that I have in my world, that I can do more. So I think a lot of times we go to these webinars, we take away, we maybe jot down some notes and we go, yeah, that was great. And then we put those away and great time. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. And that's cool. I appreciate that. And I think there's a place for that. But what I really want us to do is challenge ourselves to really take something away and put it into action. In the kata, we talk about setting a challenge. You call it a problem statement as a continuous improvement practitioner. Phrasing it, wouldn't it be great if? So what I want you to do is take out that piece of paper And thinking about what we've talked about today, what is a place you would like to be at? In Kata, we typically want to set, like, imagining ourselves as if we're there. Like, where would you want to be in a day, year, a week? Put yourself in that moment and write a statement. I'll give you some ideas here to maybe to get some thinking going. Wouldn't it be great if I was a Kata coach or learner for one woman or person of color this year? Just a thought. Wouldn't it be great if I'm inviting a new employee or someone I've never met out to a snack or lunch just to get to know them a little better? Again, just some thoughts. So as you're kind of seeing these, write them down. And if you're willing to share, of course, love to have you share that in the chat. Wouldn't it be great if I'm going to another area of a company and learning more about it? We kind of get stuck in our own area, like operations, like, oh yeah, this is why are sales having all these, why are they causing us all these? How about like going over to that area, maybe seeing how their process works? Or what about volunteering for, a different underrepresented community, volunteering there? What is your wouldn't it be great if? Wouldn't it be great if I built a pattern of reflection? Great, love it. Meet a new person and not speak about work. Yes, Craig, love that. Yeah, that's great. And just a random person who I don't know and I'm known to, and we just talk. Yeah, that's great. So what I want to do is, for Craig, since I really appreciate you stepping out and sharing, because again, I know this is kind of a vulnerable place to be. This is certainly a sensitive topic, especially kind of in our current climate now. Pass you along a copy of the book, and then for the next 3 folks that message me on LinkedIn with their challenge statement around this topic, so you don't have to share with everybody, but just share with me. I want to pass along a copy of this book, Priscilla and the Pink Planet. Copy right here. And so it can be a memory for you, a reminder of the start of your journey, because Northwest HPEC community, this is just the start of the journey. Like Priscilla, she knew her adventure wasn't quite done, and for us, our adventure here into understanding the power of perspective, this is just the start. Even for someone like myself, I see myself being closed off and having my own homogenous pink world that I need to go on a journey and find out other perspectives too. And I believe that we can do that. That's not something that's impossible. And we can do that together. So I'd love to hear from your thoughts on this. If you want to message me on LinkedIn, we can continue the conversation. And if you've got maybe a challenge in your career, in your life, and you'd like someone to support you or coach you through that, I'd love the opportunity to chat with you about that as well. And you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Just message me there is the best way. I love engaging and having meaningful conversation there. And would be happy to continue the conversation here. We might have another minute or two if there's any questions or anything anyone would like to maybe offer or been thinking about.